right. Hey, Pros and Joes, Kent Chase Golf, episode 2 of our weekly Monday podcast.
Wow, thank you, Sir Brendan Zastro.
Wow, I'm a sir.
You are a sir.
I am a,
to me, you're a sir.
I am a lord.
But you're an influence in
Did
my
you know
life.
I was a lord?
I did not know that.
My kids bought me a piece, a tract of land in Scotland about the size of the area we're sitting. And since I'm a landlord, I have a title, a plaque that says Lord Brendan Zastro. So.
And you're also, I've heard, and I've learned, Coach Z.
Coach Z.
So
Coach
you're a lord and a
recently retired Coach Z.
So somebody's going to have to take your lording position over the team.
Never lord over the team.
Oh, I see.
I had a lot of fun coaching the last 5 years, Dream City Christian.
And you won Coach of the Year, actually.
I did somehow. It should have.
Victory makes a difference.
You win a state championship.
Yeah.
I had really good players. It probably should have said Recruiter of the Year, but.
So you're saying that if you recruit the best players, you have a better chance of winning than if you just recruit the regular players?
One thing I've learned in sports is you can be a great coach, and if you don't have any talent, you might steal a couple of games you shouldn't win because of your good coaching.
Right.
But you're not winning a championship without some dogs. So you need some players. So I don't know if you would agree. You've probably coached a lot of people and seen a lot of manipulative moves out there that they're never going to win anything.
You're so on par, and the thing that I always think about, Michael Jordan, when things aren't going right, or Larry Bird, when things weren't going right, I mean, there's no I in team, but there's I in victory, and they're going to take over the game and dominate. So you need a good player or two.
I'm going to have to adopt that. I would say there's no I in team, but there's an I in win. Victory sounds a little bit more polished. So there's an I in victory.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need some good players. And if you have a bunch of good players, like LeBron James keeps surrounding himself with some really good players, that actually helps a lot too.
Yeah, the Dream City Christian, our state championship was a lot of fun because we were able to, it was a group of kids that we started the golf program with when my daughter Zoe was a freshman.
Right.
And so they didn't have a golf program, and the way it worked out, I asked them, I said, hey, do you guys have a golf program? And they said, no. I said, what do you guys think about having a golf program?
So you started it too.
Well, they said, would you like to be the coach? And I said, no, I'm not a coach. I'm happy to be a parent helper, happy to do that, but yeah, we definitely need a golf program. And so I circled back and they said, hey, I'm like, did you find a coach, golf program, we're going to do it? And they're like, would you be a coach? And I said, okay, I'll be an assistant coach. He twisted my arm.
Daughter on the team.
I'm going to be there all the time. Yeah. So we got to have a golf program. So I said, yes, I'll be an assistant coach. And so I circled back because the season was coming up, and I said, all right, golf's coming next month. And they said,
you're the coach.
They said, okay, it starts in February, you're the head coach.
Wow.
So that's how it started. And 4 of the players that started the golf team at Dream City Christian walked away as state champions.
You recruited all 4 of them, including your daughter.
Correct. Wow. I mean, there were some students there also, a couple of homeschoolers that came in. And
That's an awesome story.
It was a lot of fun. We had a lot
Zoe
of success.
was quite a player too as well.
She was. She in her few years, she won. She was the individual state champion for girls. She was awesome. A runner-up, and she was 3rd place. And a team state championship, which is really hard to do. We've had 2 individual state champions, a couple runner-ups, and a couple of both boys and girls. So it was a lot of fun, and yes, they gave me a Coach of the Year in 2023, and like I said, it was an honor, but it was anyway.
I don't know. I'm going to have to give you credit. Coach of the Year is Coach of the Year.
Hey, it's in lights. I got a plaque, and nobody can ever take that plaque away.
Right?
So.
I agree, 100%.
But love the game, and some of the comments we got, some of the feedback we got last week in the podcast, some of the people, they asked about your experience with Wild Bill Mehlhorn.
Okay, they did.
And then we talked last week, to recap, we talked about this idea of getting away from preferences, not just going for a quick tips video online. For everyone's got an opinion, everyone's got a tip, everybody's a golf coach. You go every driving range you go to, you'll see someone trying to give their buddy a tip, and
It's kind
And
of fun.
some of the advice is, if it's not probably good advice. Like, I was a self-taught guy, and
Right?
you read all the books. You read Tiger Woods' book and Jack Nicklaus' book and Ben Hogan's book, The Five Laws, and Bobby Jones and all the greats and all the videos, and sometimes that all that information, like for me, it messed, I don't say it messed me up, but it clouded my mind with all these different ideas and thoughts and ways. And so what would you say, based off of your experience with Wild Bill Mehlhorn,
Right,
and,
yeah.
and the coaching that he imparted, the coaching techniques and the ideas, what makes you different than most of the other coaches and your teaching methodology? And the last thing I'll say is, in our discussions, you've told me that you really excel. You like to play, you like to coach people that have a passion and an ability at a higher level, not just a guy off the street that wants to play once every 6 months and hacking around with his buddies. Like you get more enjoyment out of working with people that are more serious about the game of golf. So where does that come from? Talk about Wild Bill Mehlhorn and what makes your coaching philosophy different than most.
That's a really good question, and thanks for asking it, because to me, you are correct in that there's a lot of opinions and theories and different ways to do this, and a lot of teachers, it's this way, and then another teacher, it's that way, and I won't name different names, but you've seen all of those, and we can name some pretty cool names. But Wild Bill Mehlhorn helped me on this one and a lot more things. There is many ways to hit a particular golf shot, and there's so many golf shots in golf, whether it's a downhill bunker shot or a buried lie out of the bunker, or how to hit a ball out of deep rough, or how to hit a flop shot, or maybe there's a top 10 ways to hit a flop shot, or maybe there's a top 20 ways to hit a simple little bunker shot. And maybe we could explore. What I really enjoy doing is having studied everybody's book and having studied all the teachers that I've ever heard of, and having been trained by people like Wild Bill Mehlhorn, and having been highly influenced by people, including trained by Chichi Rodriguez, and having been highly influenced by Seve Ballesteros and by Raymond Floyd and by Payne Stewart and Fred Couples. There's so many ways to hit these shots, and Jason Day and then Earl Woods, Tiger's dad, Cheyenne Woods. I taught her all those years growing up. I had to figure out, how can I help her, or Kimberly Kim, who was the youngest United States amateur champion in the history of golf as a 14-year-old. What would make me different than the next guy? Well, I'm going to explore the top 20 ways to play any shot, because we have to learn all of the shots, all of the short game shots that you could possibly imagine that you're going to encounter in a round of golf, even more so in tournament play, because sometimes I think your ball knows it's a big tournament and your ball gets into some crazy spots. Do you know how to hit it out of those crazy spots? Well, if you've practiced it and learned the top 20 ways, and maybe David Ledbetter has the best way, maybe Butch Harmon has the best way, maybe Hank Haney has the best way, but I'm going to explore, and maybe my opinionated way is the best way, because I have some really good opinions and theories too. And maybe just need to read more about what Johnny Miller thinks of this shot, or Jack Nicklaus, or Arnold Palmer, or Lee Trevino, and there's so many options. But there's a way, if we put it into an objective where we actually have to produce, my gosh, suddenly you got a player, man, you can see, because you have to do X amount of balls in a row into an environment that is kind of a high lofty type of a goal. Right. And man, we got to explore all the ways, and some way, wow, this way works for me. Wow, this way works for me. I do it this way, you do it. But now we got a bunch of competitors which have, now they're developing their own opinions and theories on things. Pretty soon they're producing the objectives and they're scoring their ball. Yes, I love teaching people that have a desire to succeed in golf, even if they're a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and the parents say, my child can't wait to get on the golf course and hit balls. he doesn't even like plastic clubs, and he's only 4 years old. He wants real clubs, and so we cut these things down, and man, all he wants to do is hit that. I can't wait to teach that child because he probably has maybe a future in the sport of golf.
And you were the first U.S. Kids International Master Instructor. Is that correct?
Yes, I was fortunate. This is kind of crazy, but it's kind of awesome. U.S. Kids Golf honors what they call the top 50 teachers in the world every single year. And there was a few guys that were having major success stories with their junior players. And I named a couple of them, but there's actually a lot of those players that were able to get to win high school state championships, win U.S. Kids Golf Championships, win Junior Worlds, win U.S. Junior Amateurs, win U.S. Amateur Championships, win on the Asian Tour, win on the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour. My players were just winning, right. And the kids were dominating, and it was really a cool thing. And I'm not bragging. It's just I care when I teach
I was bragging
people.
On you.
Well, thank you.
So that's okay.
So the fact is, I can't wait to become part of the goal. That's the other thing about my teaching. I don't say keep the parents away because we need to teach a child. I say come and watch and get your video camera on me so we can agree and we become a team. And now we have a purpose together. We're going to go get because my students all have to submit their goals. What are they doing with golf? Maybe they just want to get a college scholarship to Wake Forest for some reason, like Cheyenne Woods wanted, or maybe she wanted to play on the tour. It all happened, but everybody has a couple of kids wanted to be the ultimate lawyer in the history of whatever the law firm is that their dad was on, but they wanted to be. A couple of them wanted to be better at corporate golf because they wanted to be a corporate leader, but they thought it would be really good. And some wanted to be politicians, and they thought maybe it'd be really good to be. And some wanted to be the president of the United States, and it would be really helpful if I could play good golf and not be like Gerald Ford hitting spectators.
Did you coach Donald Trump?
No, I never got to.
Oh, okay. I was just making sure he wasn't one of your students.
I actually taught presidents of countries. Ricardo Maduro was my favorite, of Honduras.
President of Honduras.
President of the country of Honduras. He actually spoke. He was one of my guest speakers at my wife's funeral, her celebration of her life service. But he flew in from Honduras because I was his teacher in Guatemala and over there in the Central America, and it became a really good relationship. And he actually was what a great man. But anyway,
would he fly you in to coach him?
Yes.
Was that part of the gig?
And he flies here to get coached.
Wow.
So it's crazy. But back to what I was trying to talk about. Yeah.
That's probably there's got to be some kind of award for the longest traveled for coaching.
But he had goals. He wanted to break par. I mean, if I have a person that wants to break par that's shooting in the 80s, now I got a goal, and then I want to know how many hours you have to put into the goal. Well, Kimberly Kim was homeschooled, so she had a lot more hours than the average person.
Correct.
So we could design a superior practice session, and we're competing against people that are from Asia who are better practicers typically than the American. And we Americans, I fortunately was not one of the ones that was lazy type practicer, but a lot of Americans, I'm not against America, I'm an American, but the kids get a little bit lazy. They want a hot dog and a Coke, and Mom, get my 7-iron. The people from overseas in Asia, they just bust it, and they work harder. So all the hours, maximizing their potential, exploiting weak points. That's the other thing about me, not just see if you can swing better one day and hit better shots, because we're all going to hit some bad shots. Man, I'm going to figure out your weak point. I'm going to figure out, when I get to teach Donald Trump, I'm going to figure out he's probably got more weak points than you, but he's got less weak points, as he proved.
He's actually a better player. He's won more club champions than I have.
But Joe Biden had more weak points when they competed against one another. You guys saw it on TV.
So in the debate. Anyway, let's keep this on golf and not politics.
Exploit weak points and help them go away. And then the top 20 ways to play a given shot. And then Wild Bill Mehlhorn, what a gifted man he was. And today it's going to be hard, but I'm going to demonstrate his theories, but his theories were used in the Ben Hogan days. Ben Hogan called him the best ball striker in the history of golf. Ben Hogan said, I wish I could hit the ball like Wild Bill Mehlhorn. Wild Bill Mehlhorn had an issue with putting. So he had the yips, so he invented Sam Snead, who had the yips, the croquet-style putter,
right.
which they outlawed and made him go side thing. But Wild Bill Mehlhorn invented that for him and Sam Snead.
He did?
Yes, he did.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah, it's a fun fact.
I watched... you read a lot about the greats, and I always read about Sam Snead's yips. And for the audience who isn't aware, if you research, Sam Snead would hold the putt like the broom handle between his legs,
Yeah.
And all the competitors complained because they said it was like a cheat code.
And so they made him
right,
do it
because
over
he was
here.
winning too many tournaments.
Yeah.
Like he was, but that you know, over the ball, he could see the line, dead over the line, and everyone said it was cheating. So the USGA changed the rules, right?
You go.
They changed the rules and said you can't stand down the line. So then he went to the side straddle. So if you ever see people holding the broomstick style with the side straddle, that is because of Sam Snead. But Wild Bill Mehlhorn actually,
because he had such a bad case of the yips. One time he sent it on hole number 9 at Augusta National at the Masters, down the fairway from only 2 feet away.
What?
True story.
No, wait.
I'm not lying.
Sam Snead.
No, Wild Bill Mehlhorn hit that putt from 2 feet. I mean, he's going to win the Masters, and all of a sudden he's got a fairway shot coming in from 2 feet away. True story.
Wild Bill Mehlhorn got the yips?
Wild Bill Mehlhorn is the one who had the yips, who Ben Hogan called him the best ball striker in the history of golf.
I see.
But the problem was he only won 23 PGA Tour events because of the yips. He would have won many more. He's on the first Ryder Cup, the whole thing, and what a great influence. But the greatest thing about him is his terminology: ease of motion, naturalness. Nothing was stack and tilt or X factor at all. Inside the barrel, it's a long conversation. When we use a wider view of the cameras next Monday, I promise this Monday, but next Monday I'll demonstrate a little bit.
And it would be good. Again, Pros and Joes, we put tips and tricks and all sorts of fun things. Kent Chase Golf, same thing. Faith Over Fear series. It'd be a good series if we went out with the cameras and did a separate between our podcasts.
Really good.
We could do the Wild Bill Mehlhorn technique series.
So awesome. And so much easier to learn how to play golf instead of the new ways. My gosh, all the top 20 positions of any backswing, move, initial move, impact, way through. There's a top 20 ways by a lot of different teachers, and then you get confused.
And we could compare because
we will.
Because again, I subscribed. I've got the David Ledbetter video series. I've got the Hank Haney series. I've looked at Butch Harmon. I've researched a lot of this.
I know you have.
And it's fascinating. And for the audience, like there's these tailor-made series out that they take their touring pros, and there's a video series it's got Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, and Jason Day, and they've got wedges 60 degree, 56 degree.
I think I've seen this. I kind of know where you're going.
And they're all hitting shots. They're hitting little chips and pitches and bunker shots, and they're all different.
They're explaining the way they do it.
And like Tiger, Jason Day, very dead-handed. Like he doesn't wrist set at all. He hits that kind of like that dead-handed wedge shot. And I got a video that I was explaining that because that works. I used to do that. I used to dead-handed wedge a lot, and it's very effective, keeps you on line. Tiger's the handsiest. He's hitting cuts. He's hitting hooks. He's the handiest player you've ever seen in your life.
More like I like to be, but I can do it either way.
Absolutely.
Based on the situation.
And Rory McIlroy's kind of in between the two.
Right.
And they're all watching each other hit these amazing shots. And Jason Day's dead-handing, and Tiger's looking at him going, that's incredible. I don't know how you do that. That's amazing. And when you hear one of the greatest ever saying, your technique, I probably couldn't do it that way.
Right.
Because I've learned to use all my hands, but he's fascinated to watch. And it's about a 30-minute video, and that is fascinating to me because there's things that you learn. There's things that, experimenting with these ideas. One of the things go ahead.
There's a key. This is a key. And this is something I learned, and then we all learned from Bob Tosky, of all people. What a man. And he wrote a book.
Was he
probably
Jack's
more than one
coach?
book. Bob Tosky was not. That was Jim Flick. Let me think
Jim
about
Flick,
But Bob Tosky, my words that I've always used are the ball flight influences. He called them the ball flight laws. And there's only 5 things that matter to that ball. And there's a million ways to get the 5 things: the path, the face, the angle of attack, maybe ascending or descending, squareness of contact, and speed. And he would preach the ball flight laws: path, face, squareness of contact, angle of attack, speed. Now you could have the top 20 different swings or short game types of ways to play a golf shot, like you were talking about Jason Day and Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods. But those 5 things are what matter to the ball.
Right.
And the ball is just sitting there waiting to get hit.
And modern terms, right? People that see the TrackMans, or they're watching all the guys, the the angle of attack. Approach angle is what
angle of approach.
Angle of approach is what they'll.
That's that term, yeah.
But
or smash factor.
And smash factor, squareness of contact, right? People are like, what's your smash factor? 1.45.
Right,
1.50 is perfect.
Right.
And as you go from a driver down through various irons, the smash factor lessens.
Right.
Like, I don't think you're going to get a 1.5 smash factor with a sand wedge.
But in the short game, Wild Bill Mehlhorn doesn't want you on the sweet spot all day. There's reasons to hit it a little toe side or heel side or this side or that side.
And that's fascinating, right?
Yes.
Tiger Woods' book, his How I Play Golf.
Right, see?
Like I want to deaden a wedge shot, I hit it on the toe. I want it to release, I'm hitting it near the hosel.
And with this or with that, and
right, intentionally, right? Instead of like, I think most people address the ball and the face is that wide, and they're like, if I hit the face, I won, I accomplished something. But
hey, can I explain the problem with the simpleness of the 5
absolutely.
ball flight laws?
Yes.
Do you know? I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it a little different. 5 things, 5 influences, 5 laws. Bob Toski's words make the ball go where the ball goes. There's only 5 things that matter to the ball that's just sitting there waiting to get hit. Path, face, squareness of contact, angle of attack, approach, and speed. Now let me wreck that and make it why most people aren't very good at golf. Here's what I just said, completely
the laws that matter.
Okay, so here's what I just said. If your club head path is traveling perfectly directly down the intended target line, and your club face is aiming perfectly square to the intended target at the moment of impact, and you contact the ball perfectly squarely on the sweet spot of the club face with the proper angle of ascent or descent, then if you've selected the correct club for the given distance, all you need is the application of the perfect amount of club head speed, and you hit the perfect shot.
Sounds easy.
Is that all?
So then I say make it simple, play ping, because I believe ping's easier to hit, in my opinion, because it is.
Agreed.
So, but the 5, I just said it so here's the problem. You got to get all 5 things to go down together. My gosh.
There's a lot of margin of error is what you're saying. So
Really?
So when Rory McIlroy said, when the announcers were beating him up and asking him all these questions after a round, he said, fellas, golf is hard.
That's why most people aren't very good at golf. True story. And nothing personal, but then do they really learn correctly in the first? They go out and beat some balls, and it goes where it goes, and they don't like where it went, so they aim in the opposite direction, and they try this and try that. And like you said, somebody on the range says, hey, try this, try that. And maybe you need to buy these clubs or try that ball. And all of a sudden, you got somebody that's searching for a better game, and the battle starts.
So do you think the club manufacturers, they're making these adjustable, forgiving clubs that
I'm still
like
mad about it.
I don't really, if I'm a big slicer, I can buy a club that's weighted in the heel, that the face is closed.
Then you don't need,
and
come on.
I can swing over the top with an open face, and the ball goes relatively straighter than it should.
Here's my problem.
So then I think, because I spent $500 or $600 on a driver, I think that all of a sudden I've gotten good at golf.
Bill Myers, Ping, all those years, he had something on Facebook the other day. He puts things on Facebook. Really cool dude. I like him. Really nice. Really gifted man. He had the old persimmon wood and the fiber insert and all that. He was showing, and I responded, man, I wish we still had wooden clubs and balata balls. I added. Do you know what? The balata ball was a ball that you could curve, you could work, you could spin the pants off it if you wanted to. You could curve it 40 yards if you needed to, this way or that way. The modern ball, because the masses, the population of golfers aren't very good, they're not in charge of it curving. It just curved too much one way or another. So they hated that curving ball. They wanted to decrease the curve. So for the modern bad golfer, they decreased the way it curves. But the problem is, Lee Trevino hated it. All of a sudden, you can't curve the ball as much as you want. Now you can't work it the same way. You can't spin it. Like, we could decide how much spin rate we wanted on our ball. So yeah, bomb and gouge is a new thing. How far can I hit it? And then you got 9 irons in on par 5s, and it's a whole different sport. It's a whole different sport. I want to go back with the persimmon woods and balata balls. So it actually takes more talent.
I think so. I think you're right. It's
in the favor of the masses, though, it is better that they get an easier ball to control.
But like a lot of the fundamental teaching now is, it's all about speed training. Hit the ball as far as you can somewhere.
Yeah.
get a wedge in your hand, even if you need a 64 degree,
Yeah,
hit it over the tree because you have so much speed that you don't
Yeah.
you don't have to carve it around. You just go over, and
Right.
that's really a way. And
We need taller trees.
and so what I've found working with you is learning and understanding about the 5 laws and how the change of the setup or the ball position and the face angle at address, opening up the face and swinging out to the left and hitting these cuts, hitting these hooks. It's been really good. I was at Moon Valley, and it was the 9th hole, and I hit a good drive. I actually pulled out my 3-wood off the tee because I got a new 3-wood, and I said, hey, I want to try this thing out, and I aimed at that tree kind of on the right of the fairway, and I hit it straight. Didn't draw, just hit it straight, and it went out like 250. Like, that's a good 3-wood.
Right.
Like, that's longer than I expected.
Right.
But because of it, I was tree blocked. And so I was like 115, 120 yards to the pin.
Over the little river.
Over the little river,
Under
with the
the
tree.
yeah.
So I'm hugging the tree. And so I aimed my body, because you told me, aim my body.
Okay.
Played it way forward in my stance.
Cut, yeah.
Open face, 8-iron with a wide open face, choked down, and I punch cut. It just shaved the tree, went up there, hit it up to like 15 feet, and everyone was like, that shot was amazing.
Wow.
All the guys are like, and probably a year ago, before I started working with you and getting around and having an understanding of how to hit these shots, I would have just chipped that thing out 50 yards, tried to get up and down, because
now you make birdie.
Right. Instead of having a look at birdie, I'm going to scramble to make par, which I have a good short game, so that would have been an easy, safe play. But I'm like, hey, I've been working with my guy Kent.
You're awesome. Thank you.
Wow. He's been teaching me these shots, and I took enough club because I said, even if I just hold it left, it's going to cover all the water, even if it didn't bend, right? So it's
awesome.
Smart enough to say where the ball was. My initial instinct was to say, okay, I'm going to try and slam hook something around, and it was a dumb shot,
Wow.
but it was easier for me to hook balls than to slice a ball.
Got it. Now you can
And
go
so
either way. It doesn't matter.
It started left and ended up behind the pin, in line with the target, and
Birdie putt.
anyway, because so again, what you're saying, what you're telling the audience, it works. And Faith Over Fear series, you show people, you demonstrate a lot of these. People think they're trick shots,
but they're not.
But they're not trick shots.
Here's the thing.
It's the 5 laws.
It's the 5 laws, and here's the critical turning point. Because I only said for a straight shot. Those laws apply to curving it this way, curving it that way, punching it that way, low, high, medium, whatever you want, being in charge of flighting the ball, trajectory-wise and curvature-wise. It's so awesome to play golf that way. But here's what I was going to say that is my biggest thing probably about both Wild Bill Mehlhorn and Chichi Rodriguez, and Sebi was all over this as well. If you can get really good at owning all the trouble play shots, whether it's a fairway curve it around the tree problem or a greenside buried lie, downhill bunker shot, out of the rough, flop shot, whatever the situation may be, if you actually learn, not many people teach this. This is what I enjoy. Everybody could get just as good as the next guy that plays golf for a living on the tour on all the short game shots. And if you can get good at all the possible trouble play shots, and this is what Earl Woods loved when I spent some time with him, if you get good at that, then you don't fear being in those positions. And if you don't fear being in the trees because you know how to carve it around the corner this way or that way, or flight it this way or that way, then you can rip it off the tee, then you can bomb and gouge it, and then you can take dead aim at the pin because you don't mind the short game shot that you might face because you already own all the shots. So fear goes away, and all of a sudden you can, if your goal was to be on maybe you wanted a college scholarship one day, if you learn all those shots, when you get in the big tournaments and you're faced with them, then you got to just trust that you own it. And then when the announcer on TV says, my gosh, he's got no shot, and then the guy cuts it around the corner, spins it like that, and the announcer says, my gosh, he's got the greatest imagination. No, he doesn't. Or the other announcer says, he's got the greatest hands. Well, he probably doesn't. He understands the ball flight laws, so he understands he's practiced, he's put it under objectives where he has to perform, and he can bomb and gouge it all day, because if he gets in trouble, trouble don't matter anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there are, you had talked about tournament. I think there are different golf balls in tournaments. They're the magnetic balls.
Oh, yeah.
I've learned the magnetic balls. When I get in a tournament, they're water magnetic, tree magnetic, sand magnetic. For some reason,
how does your ball know? And how did it know it's you?
But right. So when you're in a tournament, even whatever level you're playing at, if you're on a team, you don't want to let your teammates down, your buddies down, and so you're standing on the tee, and the fairway's narrow, and normally if it's wide open or you're on the driving range, you take driver and you swing as hard as you can and just rip that thing.
Right.
But when there's trees on both sides or some sand or whatever it may be, sometimes you get tentative and a little steery if you're fearful. If you're fearful that if I don't pull off the perfect drive, because most of the time you don't, right? You can. I'm not saying.
I don't know. I mean,
but sometimes, right? When a club's
fearful, you're probably not going to.
If you're steering, right? I find when I let it go, I make the best swings. Like I swing on plane better when I'm swinging really hard at it. I don't know why. That's just something about me. But I do know sometimes I get steery and I'm not swinging 100%. Maybe I'm 90 and I'm holding things. Just things happen. And when a club's going 100 miles an hour, it's hard to make a adjustment at the point of impact to make it go straight or draw or when you want it to. And so oftentimes those end up. But it's nice when you can just step back there and rip it and live with the result.
How about if you had to produce objectives with every club in your bag, and your last station is the driver, and you had to hit 5 balls in a row into a field goal that's particular width that represents the width of the fairways that you're going to be playing that week, and you got to hit 5 draws and 5 fades into the objective before you're done with your practice session every single time. Believe me, when you're on ball 5, ball 4, you feel ball 5 coming. When you're on ball 5 and you have to hit at least this far between this, I call it pressure pack ball 5 because it matters. And if you produce it, wow, that's good. And then you do the 5 fades, and you got, or maybe it's a 5 fades and then a 5 draws, or maybe we up it to 14 driving holes, and then maybe we find out that our scatter factor ability level with our driver, with our fades, is not as good as with our draws when we become a more proficient player, and it takes more shots. And maybe pressure pack ball 5, you keep blowing it because that represents a tournament round that you're playing with your buddies, and you're up scared, and whatever the reason is, and you're steering, whatever, that steering thing never going to work. But if you pressure pack ball 5, if you succeed, man, I own this, and you take it golfing, and you already know who you are. And then if they got a lake on the right side of your scatter factor ability, your personal scatter factor ability level, and you got some sand traps on the left, maybe you can move your fairway over a little bit that you're good enough to hit it between here and there, and it doesn't include the possibility of hitting the lake. So now you can take that aim in the middle of that, maybe you'll catch a little fairway bunker shot, but it won't hurt anybody's feelings. And now you can bomb and gouge it all day.
Yeah, and it's amazing. There's a lot of technology out there for your shotgun pattern, your scatter factor.
Now you've got that right.
There's Arcos. Scott Fawcett. Shout out to Scott Fawcett in Decade Golf.
Yeah.
Like he's got the Moneyball stats
Love it.
of golf, and when you learn those things, it makes you a better player. You can have a better plan, and we probably have to wind this up for today, but
got it.
Personally, I was a player. This is how I learned how to play golf. Fire at every pin. I was a fire at every pin, whether that was smart. I mean, there were so many pins that are short-sided, over a bunker, in prison, and I've got a club in my hand that I always hook, and I'm aiming at the pin and I hook it in the water and shocked, why did that happen? Right. And when I started looking at Decade Golf and Scott Fawcett, one of the things that was fascinating to me that I found was he would play the TV announcer. Tiger Woods hits this heroic shot up to 4 feet.
You want to be like that.
And you're like, I want to be Tiger Woods. He's hitting up to 4 feet. He's firing at these prison pins, these pins that are impossible. But then they show the same shot. They show Tiger and Stevie Williams. Tiger's like, oh, I missed it right? It was a tucked right pin, and he missed it right. His intended target line was 20 feet left of the pin, but he missed it to his furthest most point of his scatter factor ability.
Yes.
And it landed on the pin, and he's got to kick in for birdie.
And they say, my gosh, why was he aiming there?
They heroify him.
Wow.
They're like, Tiger hit the shot, and he's telling Stevie, his caddy, that I missed it, but I'm going to have a kick in for birdie because I knew that if I intentionally aim 20 feet left,
it'll go between here and here.
Right. I'm either going to have a 40-foot putt, or I'm going to be on the pin, or a 20-foot putt.
Here. Yeah.
And
wow.
And I'm a good putter.
Absolutely. That's so cool.
And me, I'm going straight at the pin, then you short side yourself, then you turn an easy par, right?
Yeah.
I'm a good putter, so I should give myself a chance to make a putt from anywhere. But I take short-sided, I take aim at these pins. Now I'm, it's impossible. Now I'm looking at 5 or 6 when it should have been an easy par just because I was a dumb, unintelligent, didn't have the knowledge to understand
that way of playing golf.
That way of playing golf.
And that's called managing your way around the course, but only possible if you know who you are, identifiable by the field goals that we're talking about. Most people
through the 5 laws.
And then the people say, well, you got to teach that person how to manage their way around the course. Well, they're not in charge of their ball. They have no idea where their next ball's going. What do you mean make him hit a 3-iron? He hit his driver further in crooked than a 3-iron in crooked. I mean, how do you make somebody manage their way around the course if they're not in charge of their darn ball? I mean, that's
so if you don't have the 5 laws on course management, you might as well throw it out the window, because if you don't know where it's going in the first place, what are you going to manage? That's like having unruly employees and being a boss, right? What are you managing?
You're so good at that. Wow. But you're learning how to, because you're learning your scatter factor ability level on all the different areas of the game, including cutting it, carving it right to left, left to right, whatever. And it's a different style of play, and that's how, when you're in charge of your ball and in charge of flighting your ball, wow, and in charge of distance control, now it becomes very, like back to the field goals. I can only hit me, I can hit, I guarantee you, did it all every day back when I was playing, 10 in a row drivers between a 40-yard space, pressure pack ball 10, every time, no doubt. 35 yards, 7 out of 10. I took my stats. 30 yards, 5 out of 10. 50% of the time in 30 yards of space, I could rip it full out between that space, which means now the next hole, I got this 25-yard wide fairway. I could hit a little less than 50% of my balls between that space. On the right side's a lake, and on the left side's a St. Andrews type pot bunker. My gosh, I could hit about 40-something% of my balls between that space. I always can hit 10 3-woods in a row between that space. 3-wood, whoosh, whoo. And you can play golf like that. It's a whole different style.
It is.
Because you got to know who you are. That's what I mean by who you are.
100%. 100%. Well, Kent Chase golfers, pros and Joes, this has been another fun week. My friend Kent Chase, this guy, come see him at Sun City Country Club at the Kent Chase Golf Academy. He has more golf knowledge, wisdom, stories. I mean, it's just a fun guy to be around. So if you need instruction, trust me, you need it.
But trust me, I do love a lot of the modern teachings. I do use a TrackMan too.
Oh, sure, 100%.
I love,
it validates. It's validated what a lot of these guys, what the Wild Bill Mehlhorns, a lot of these guys, without that technology, they had these things figured out. And now it's like, it's kind of like the Bible, right? For thousands of years we've had the Bible and the book, and people have been saying, well, how do you know it's true? Now they're having all these archaeological digs and finds and proving what there's never been a thing found that's disproved the Bible. Now with the tech of golf and TrackMans and all these things, it's these 5 laws have been proven
everybody was right.
to work.
The Bill Mehlhorns and Ben Hogans were correct all those years.
Well, maybe next week we can talk about the laws versus the preferences.
Oh, that's a deep story. And the principles, which are the fundamentals that make it so you're in charge of the laws, and then it makes you desire to decrease the preferences when the preferences are the problem. That's
I had a lot of preferences. And
but you decreased.
You said, I have decreased. You said, do you want to be good or do you want to have preferences?
Yeah, and then under pressure, why are you doing it that way again? Well, because you didn't know you were back to a preference, but you needed to hit a good shot, and then it wasn't a good shot.
Are you talking me taking it outside all the time instead of on plane? I see, he had to go there. We were trying to end this with
but
no, it is. But I know. But now when I'm on the golf course, I know, because of having some understanding, some more knowledge, I know if I'm getting squirrely, that to me, taking it on plane sometimes feels like I'm pulling it here, but I know, because I've practiced, how to self-correct when I start getting a little squirrely.
And you've done your mirror, you've understood.
Yeah. And so it used to be, I didn't have the feel today. I'm out there.
I lost that feeling.
It's just going to be a bad day. I'm just going to shoot 90 today. Versus some days you come in the field, I'm going to shoot in the 70s. Now now my bad golf, it's tightened. Realm between a bad day and a good day. It used to be here. Now it's here. So thank you, Kent Chase.
Can you imagine, Tiger Woods, I'll end with this with me and then you'll close, but can you imagine he started in the right place every single time? That means how to grip it, align it, posture it, ball position, pre-shot routine. He had no negative influences in the equation in his prime of why he might fail. Still, he doesn't, those aren't influences of why he might fail. He then took it back to the place, and Butch Harmon calls it different, but I call it the place. And Tiger Woods did drills that he didn't like it. He had to come static position at the top, coming from here, learning how to hit balls from the right place. And it was unworthy of him to hit balls from wrong places, which most people do, and then the ball's already predetermined to go to a bad place, and then you got to come up with unique, innovative ways to not go where you should have gone. The battle starts. So the place is the key. And the problem I was having with you is your unique, innovative way to take it back, you couldn't get the place very often unless you came up with that feeling. Once in a while you come up with this feeling, and then dang, I had that feeling for a couple holes. Where to go? And then the next morning, I hope I got that feeling. And where's the feeling? But Tiger Woods decreased the need for feelings. I mean, he had his feel, but he do it. How about if you're doing it correctly from the right place with the right feel? Wow, that's a whole new planet Earth. And that's where he was, and that's where he is, and that's where you are. Yes. And now you maybe can turn pro, and you don't have to worry about working for a living anymore, and make some serious money on the PGA. Wait, you're too old. You have to go on the Champions
Too
Tour.
old.
Yeah.
I'm just getting started.
Okay.
Watch out, Senior Tour. Here we go. And when I make my first Senior Tour event, you can caddy for me.
Oh, please, thank you.
All right.
Can you imagine tomorrow, actually Wednesday, I'm honored to be caddying for Alan Solheim in the Waste Management Phoenix Open Celebrity Pro-Am. I played in the Phoenix Open in the past. Now I'm going to be
you're going to be the caddy, the celebrity caddy.
A celebrity caddy for this.
Do you think people will ask you to sign autographs?
I have no idea. They used to, but I don't know.
They might.
They might remember me. Yeah.
All right. Well,
so
we are way over our time. We're figuring this out. Thanks for staying with us today. Like and subscribe, Kent Chase Golf, Pros and Joes. Give us your comments, your feedback. Let us know what type of content, what type of things you would like to know about in golf. Have a great day.
Wow, thank you.